Well, Ramon, thanks for having me. First of all, I've been here, I think, 23 years. I am the gameplay director.
All right, 23 years gameplay director. You're not tired of doing this yet, man?
I love it, man. Every year I love it. And these guys that keep coming in, they keep me young. It couldn't get any more fun being up here in the office with these guys day after day.
That's awesome. So before we talk about MLB The Show 22 gameplay changes, we're going to take a quick recap and look at MLB The Show 21 and kind of where we ended off with our last patch 117 and how the hitting stats look. So what you're looking at on the screen is all of the swings post-patch 117. It's a little over 3 billion swings. So we're not going to get into any of the specifics, Gil, but what we do want to talk about is our overall approach of how we make this game and how we make adjustments and what we're actually trying to do, especially when it comes to the hitting portion of the game.
Yeah, so really, like, throughout this this whole stream, you're going to hear me talk about being realistic. And we strive to be as realistic of a gameplay experience, a gameplay simulation as we possibly can. Baseball is really important to us. So getting our numbers correct is also important. But on the same side of that, it is a video game. So we want to make sure it's fun. And we want to make sure, especially like in the competitive environment where guys are playing head-to-head, that they feel like they're in control of the game. So a lot of these numbers that they're going to see are going to be a little different for each player that plays the game, depending on their ability, right? And what levels that they play on. So the numbers are going to change in terms of how good you are. If I'm on, veteran versus legend. And so we have to balance for all of those things. And that's a really important thing to note too, right? One thing I will say is I know a lot of people complain about getting, perfect and lining out. And then also people, I guess they say that they call it cheesing in the game, right? Where you get like a little blooper into right field. But I'm here to tell you guys that none of that's going to go away. This is a real baseball game. And it's funny, I was just watching a college game this last weekend, and one of the guys on this team that I've watched them play, I think 6 games now, has just been crushing the ball. Like, honestly, I haven't seen a guy line out more than this guy. I felt bad for him. But then this weekend, he got 4 hits. He got 1 infield hit. I'm talking about 4 hits, like where he didn't make solid contact. He had like 1 infield hit. He had 2 flares into the outfield and another like swinging bunt. And so that makes up for all those lineouts, right, Kyle? Like, that. Kyle played the game. He knows. So it's like over time, those things are going to come back and balance themselves out.
Got to stick to the process, right? You keep doing the same thing, right, over and over again. Eventually those results will come one way or the other.
Right, and that's why we're showing you these hitting stats. This is 3 billion swings, so this is a pretty large sample size. Like you said, sometimes you line out perfect, but just to look at perfect, you can still see the perfect batting average for every difficulty online in the game is over 800. And this is where we want it to be. And if you look at all of our numbers, when B-Ma and the gameplay team, when we crunch the numbers fall in line to where we want them to be in the game. Now, that doesn't mean the game is perfect, doesn't mean the game can't be worked on, doesn't mean we're not always trying to make the game better and make our engines better. But more often than not, what you have to always remember is baseball is a game of averages. So when we look at the average of all of your swings and a totality of them, is the ball going where you think it should? And we believe that answer is yes. However, we have a lot of new things to talk about gameplay-wise for MLB The Show 22. So let's get to it. You've seen the data, but let's talk about MLB The Show 22 gameplay, pitching, hitting, and fielding.
Let's go.
Now, this feature premiere is going to be very different. We're just going to press record, and we're going to talk about everything. We're going deep dive here. PCI anchor, custom practice, par, and much more. So let's grab some chips and soda, get comfortable for a long conversation on gameplay with Chris Gill and Kyle Saul. All right, so now we're going to start talking about some of the new features and changes and additions to gameplay in MLB The Show 22. We're talking hitting, pitching, fielding. We're going to start off at custom practice. What are we looking at, Kyle?
Yeah, Ramon. So first, we're going to take a look at a new addition to custom practice, which is fielding. We saw your feedback, heard your feedback, and fielding was resounding a big addition to custom practice this year. So now we're going to give you a few new pretty cool options in there. You'll see on screen, player lock is a defensive option now, hit position, hit type. So you can practice those player lock situations for road to the show, working on your double plays, your relays from the outfield. You also can player lock on any position you want, work on catcher. Maybe that's something you never wanted to try road to the show. Give it a try in custom practice now. You can here we go, we're going to see it on screen. Take a look what it's like. Try those bunt situations out, practice calling pitches, throws down to first. That's pretty cool new functionality we can see there. And then on screen, you're going to notice on the bottom, those two new pretty cool little options, R3 and the touchpad option. And the R3 is going to give you the ability to reset that play quickly. So balls hit to the outfield, you can reset that right away, kind of similar to the home run derby functionality that we have for you guys. And that touchpad functionality will take you right back into some quick options to set for fielding or hitting or team practice, whatever you may be on.
Yeah, for our eagle-eyed viewers, if you've been watching our streams for the past few years, this screen should be a little bit familiar to you, because what we've essentially done is we've given you our tools that we use to test the game in the custom practice for fielding, right, Kyle?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Ramon. A lot of this came about from us just testing internally and realizing, man, this would be a pretty cool feature to put out to the public. Why don't we let them customize the way that they want to practice and play? So yeah, that's what you're seeing right now on screen.
So you can finally practice robbing home runs and diving plays.
Yeah,
So some of the best stuff, though, that I think, honestly, for this is that you can sort in so many different ways. Turning double plays, like Kyle mentioned, is one thing, but like for me, a guy that gives up a lot of hits, I need to practice my defense. So I'll set up situations where I'm throwing guys out at the plate. And then also I'll set up like gappers and balls that are hit into right center field where the center fielder's going over, and I got to throw guys out at third using the new perfect throws. It's just a lot of fun. Not only is it fun, you can actually really efficiently get through practice by clicking the
that
share
R3.
button.
Another kind of unheralded feature about having custom practice in the fielding arena is the ability to repeat plays. Why is that so important, Gil?
Yeah, it's super important. Well, the cool thing about that is you can just go through, and like we're playing right now, you can just hit random balls to the outfield. So if I'm working on fly balls, eventually you'll get a rob home run opportunity or something like that. You want to put it on a repeat play. Well, you can do that. You can practice robbing home runs over and over again. Or if you get a diving play, you can work on diving over and over again. So it's a really cool new feature that we've added to this. So not only can you skip the play if you don't like what's going on, you can move on to the next one. But what's really cool is you can just repeat that exact play, practice that exact thing over and over and over again, which is a really cool feature.
Yeah, giving you the ability to really practice those dives. If you can get a rob home run situation, you can just lock that hit in and keep practicing it over and over and over again. And I think that's going to wrap up the addition to custom practice in MLB The Show 22. All right, so let's jump on over to new difficulty settings.
Yeah, so you will notice as you're working your way through the front end and our new boot flow, you'll see that we got two new lower level difficulties added. Those are called amateur and minor now. And what those are is we take a look at telemetry and data every year on our users' ability and the numbers that we're getting back, how you guys are hitting with your averages and on different abilities and skill levels and gameplay styles that we have. And we just noticed that with our whole new swath of users, which is awesome, that we needed some help onboarding you guys to our game, learning pitch mixes, getting comfortable with the speeds and the interfaces. So we added those two new levels down at the bottom to really just help, like I said, onboard first-time users and just onboard even those users that are having trouble with our interfaces.
Right, so we've added two new difficulty levels, but we've also improved dynamic difficulty, right, Kyle?
Right, that's a really amazing option that I would suggest a lot of new users try out, is the dynamic difficulty option. And that option gives you as a user the ability to start anywhere you want along our difficulty spectrum and set it to dynamic, and based on your results on field, it'll move you up or down and slide you and work you towards a higher or lower level, which is a pretty awesome thing to have, I think.
That is pretty awesome. All right, MLB The Show 22, we're talking about all things gameplay related. We're talking changes, additions, and sometimes just quality of life fixes that go on within any given developmental year. So let's jump into hitting. Lots to talk about, but we're going to start with dynamic PCI range, PCI anchor, and talk about some other aspects of hitting. But Kyle, what is dynamic PCI?
So dynamic PCI, for those that aren't familiar with PCI, it stands for plate coverage indicator, and that's when you're using our zone interface in hitting. And so the PCI, if you're familiar with our game in 21 and before, it's consistent inside and out of the zone, meaning you have the same contact size whether you're in the strike zone or whether you're on the outside, on the corners, etc. In 22 and going forward, that PCI now scales, which essentially shrinks the further it moves away from the zone. So as your PCI moves outside, you're going to notice a decrease in both the contact and vision portions of your hitting area. And so what we're trying to convey here to you guys is we want you to be able to cover all the sides of the plate, the corners, the edges, while also reflecting the ability or inability for a batter to be able to cover those spots. It's difficult to be able to hit that pitch outside of the plate, so we're representing that by showing a decreased size in zone. Same thing goes for inside and above and below the zone as well.
Also, to really elaborate on that, we're making a video game, right? And what the user doesn't have the ability to do is move his batter around in the batter's box. But in real life, this happens all the time. Gil, can you explain what the difference is and why we've made these changes and how it reacts to real life and what we're trying to replicate?
Yeah, sure. And I think this is good to clarify. I mean, we do a lot of things that we do in our game. We try to keep as close to real life as possible. Obviously, we don't have the ability to shift forward and back. So as far as plate coverage is concerned, you're pretty much stuck with what we're giving you. So if you look at everybody's stance in the batter's box, everybody's back foot is going to be in the same position. Their front foot might change, whether they have an open stance, a closed stance, if they're wide, if they're narrow, that will change. But essentially, because our swings are normalized and we have, 9 different swings in our game, because they're normalized, everybody has the exact same plate coverage, right? So with this dynamic plate coverage indicator, what it's representing is as that ball moves out of the strike zone, we know that in real life, if you're getting spammed with, sliders away in real life, a real life human can make that adjustment and move closer to the plate and extend his coverage, right? And help fight off pitches that might be off the plate. Well, you can't do that in our game, so we're allowing you to do that to a certain extent on pitches off the plate. Now, what's going to happen is if you look at the rating of your batter, a guy that has a high contact rating, in general, he's going to have a bigger PCI when you move it out of the strike zone. It is not going to be the same size as it is in the middle of the strike zone, but as it moves out of the strike zone, you'll see it shrink, but not quite as much as somebody with a lower contact rating. As they have the lower contact, the rating is, the smaller you're going to see that PCI shrink, right? So really, the idea of, and I know some people, you have to understand also, Ramon, that we are balancing this game on all different levels for 6+ million people that are playing our game at all different levels. So from legend all the way to beginner, that is going to change as well. And then also, sometimes when the people got to understand that when you're starting off with a brand new game, you're starting with bronze and silver type players, and as we get to a couple hundred days into the season, now everybody's battling with guys that are 125 power and 99 contact, and so it changes things a little bit, right? So we have to balance for all of those things.
And also, just to clarify, the gameplay team works on gameplay. The content team is all about creating the content and the card. So we work in tandem, but these are two completely separate teams. And this is all just about the progression of how, our video game has been developed over years. And to recap what you mentioned, the dynamic PCI range is about a batter's ability to be able to stay alive in the count, not necessarily hit really great contact if he's chasing the pitch. But since you can't move the guy in the batter's box, we're now creating dynamic PCI range to kind of replicate what will be happening in real life, while also at the same time trying to make the game balanced, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much, you said that correctly, except for I would just correct one thing. We're not necessarily creating the dynamic PCI to extend at bats. It's almost the opposite of that. We're allowing pitchers to get hitters out.
That's perfect. I'm glad you said that.
On pitches off the plate.
So
okay?
We'll jump in. Foul balls.
Yes.
How will foul balls be affected in MLB The Show 22 based off of just regular hitting changes and based off of the changes implemented because of dynamic PCI?
So in addition to the scaling of the PCI range, we also take a look at all of the data that we get back on foul balls. And one of the biggest things that we see you in the community point out is the ability to extend at bats. And sometimes that can be frustrating to you. So what we did is took a look back at our data. which is part of the reason why this is implemented in the first place, and in addition have done some significant work to preventing those, or the ability to extend at bats. And don't get me wrong, the top users with good plate coverage indicator placement will have the ability to extend at bats the same way real life MLB players with good plate coverage skills can extend their at bats. But we're very mindful of keeping it within reason and realistic. We don't want 20-25 pitch at bats out there. We want true realism.
So Gil, to wrap up dynamic PCI range, the plate coverage indicator is now shrinking as you're getting further outside of the zone, right? So this was implemented for pitchers, right?
Well, essentially, it was implemented to make the game more realistic, right? You can only cover so much, right? So essentially, the hitters had more plate coverage than they should have. And the result of that was a lot of foul balls, batters being able to extend at bats. And when you extend at bats, you're getting more opportunities to get base hits, hit home runs, win games in BR in the third inning, right? It's frustrating when that happens. So essentially, yes, we added this for the pitcher's benefit. It is to get hitters that have lower contact, so that thing shrinks, it's a lot smaller, to be able to get them to chase and not make contact with the ball. However, like Kyle mentioned, there will be foul balls. You can't control that to a certain extent, depending on the guys. When you're looking at the context of who's hitting, what their contact rating is, that PCI is.
But as always, when the game ships, we're always looking at the data, we're always watching streams, and we will adjust as needed, like we always do. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, we've talked about dynamic PCI range, but let's also talk about some of the changes to contact and power swing based off of user stats, Kyle.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that we made adjustments to this year would be contact and power swing. And I'll take a step back a little bit and just talk about the implementation of the three different types of swings we have: power, contact, and normal. And at the time, 10, 12 years ago, there was no online modes. We didn't have 125 players. And essentially the gist behind contact is, in real life baseball, 2 strikes. You're trying to extend at bats, look for your pitch. You're not looking to hit a home run. I mean, you are, but in situation, you're looking to extend that at bat, find the pitch that you want to drive, and can maybe drive for power. And so the contact was used for that purpose in mind. And now we found out that you all are using it online a little bit more to your benefit, and it really wasn't any different than the power swing that we had out there. So we had patched in some changes to the contact and power swings in 21. And for 22, we've made additional adjustments to the power and contact swings as well. Contact will be less effective on pitches outside of the strike zone.
So Kyle, you mentioned we tuned contact and power swing based off of user stats, and also just reevaluating that feature. That was put in the game about 10 years ago, before we had 125 power and contact guys, right?
Right. We reevaluated the way those 3 different types of swings work, found out that there was some work that we could do on our end to make them more efficient, more viable, and make each one individual and stand for a specific purpose. So contact, you're going to want to use to extend those at bats with 2 strikes, fight off pitches. Power, you're looking to drive a ball in the gaps and over the fence, and normal is a very good combination of both. And so this year in 22, contact swing is less effective on those pitches outside of the strike zone, and that power penalty will be harder and should be harder to extend at bats, which is what we're really trying to do. We're trying to keep those at bats more realistic and more in line with what you would expect to see in the MLB.
So that's now the second thing we've implemented to bring more swing and misses and more strikeouts, and kind of curtail and rebalance out the user's ability to fight off pitches and extend at bats to an unrealistic manner, which has been the case in the past.
Absolutely, Ramon.
Yeah, I want to chime in there real quick, because I do want to say that, and Kyle nailed it, but when we did implement this, you got to understand that this was implemented for situational based hitting. So essentially X is what you use to hit. The other 2 things are very situational, right? For example, if I had a runner on third base with less than 2 outs and I want to drive him in, I probably want to use the power swing when I'm ahead in the count. If I'm behind the count, I don't want to use that, because it's making it harder for me to make contact, right? So I'd want to use the contact in that situation. So I got an 0-2 count, I'd use circle to make contact. It gives me a bigger contact radius. If I have a 2-0 count, and I'm going to try to use my power swing to drive that guy in, right? And so it's a very situationally based kind of system that we have implemented. But to be honest, you're better off just using X overall you're going to get better results.
Yep, using normal swing is just fine. For our new users, you never have to use contact or power swing if you don't want to. Your power hitters are going to hit home runs. Your contact hitters are going to get on base. You can just use the regular swing all the time if you want to. However, if you want to go a bit deeper, there are all those other 2 options that people have at their disposal. So we're going to talk about PCI Anchor. But before we do, Kyle, let's give a quick recap on what exactly is the plate coverage indicator. Is it a bat?
Plate coverage indicator is not the bat. It's where that hitter is looking to hit and drive the ball. And so one of the biggest key factors is that there's some variation in there. Each PCI represents there's a natural variation to every user's swing, or every player's swing in the game. You know, from Bellinger to Muncy to, Utley, they're all different. And so we're reflecting that in the way that the PCI works.
Exactly. So once again, the PCI is not a representation of the bat. It's where the hitter is looking. And we're trying to give you a representation of the type of hitter he is. Is he a contact hitter, a power hitter, somewhere in between, or is he an old-world guy who can do it all, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so PCI Anchor. So if you played the tech test, you have probably used this feature. So let's break it down, Kyle. What exactly is PCI Anchor?
So first, watching all you guys and girls use the PCI Anchor was awesome. I love seeing you test it out, give it a try, watching where you're locking on. It's really awesome to see. And so for those that aren't familiar or didn't get a good understanding of what the PCI Anchor does, you all can now preset your PCI plate coverage indicator while using the zone hitting interface to one of 9 different locations pre-pitch. To activate that, you click the L3 stick and you'll move it into one of those 9 directions that I mentioned. An on-screen display appears with showing those 9 dots. You can cycle it through those, drop it in that one zone that you like. For me, it's low and away because I can't hit a pitch in that area.
It's hot for me.
It's hot.
Yeah, I'm going to remember that too, by the way, the long way.
Well, from our co-op games, I don't think you know yet.
Oh!
So. I got no room to talk there. He owns me right now. Absolutely owns me.
So, one of the advantages and one of the thoughts behind the PCI Anchor is, for those new users that are onboarding that are struggling in one specific area, this is a really great feature to get your hands on and lock that PCI into one spot and get a good feel for working on, those outside pitches, those inside pitches. Or one thing that I like to do is, because I struggle with that outside pitch, I lock on down and away, but then I sit my PCI in. So there's a lot of ways that you can really use this PCI Anchor to your advantage.
And that's really important because you can still move the PCI, right?
Yes.
Even though you've locked it.
Yes. Yeah. And so one of the cool aspects of that is it kind of changes the sensitivity around your input, giving you finer control to the shorter side that you locked it. So if you were to lock at the top part of the zone, to go all the way down to the bottom is not a full depression all the way down. You only really need to go down about halfway to cover that area, which is a total game changer, and it really kind of reworks that sensitivity and allows you to cover spots that you weren't able to cover before, or maybe just move quicker to one side of the zone that you weren't able to.
Let's go over that one more time, because that's the part of PCI anchoring that you couldn't figure out from the tech test. So repeat that one more time about the sensitivity changes.
Yeah, so Ramon, PCI anchoring changes that sensitivity of input, and it gives you finer controls on the sides and the corners. So the example that I'll give is if you lock at the top of the zone, you have finer precision up top, and you can more easily cover the bottom 2/3 of that strike zone with just a smaller depression of that L stick.
So us with really bad thumbs who go straight up in the zone and straight down in the zone. Now, if I'm locking into that area, I don't need to basically press as hard as I used to.
Right. Absolutely.
Sounds perfect. So PCI lock is just really intended to give advanced users more options to hit and support different hitting strategies, right?
Yeah, that's also another thing to point out. So with it in mind, we had thought that this would be a feature that beginners would flock to, but based off of the tech test and the streams that we were watching, it seems, and I'm very happy to say that the anchor is going to be used for all of our players. Everybody from the legend player to the beginner player was giving PCI Anchor a try, and it was really awesome to see and having a lot of fun with it. So I don't think it's going to be just tailored to advanced or beginners. I think it's going to be something everybody's using.
Perfect. So that is PCI Anchor, and we already talked about dynamic PCI range. We'll keep it moving. All right, so we're going to do a really deep dive into baseball hitting physics, how it works in MLB The Show 22, how it's worked in the past. We're going to talk about swing analysis. Hopefully there'll be a few changes in swing analysis. We're actively working on it, but we're going to do some breakdowns. So the first breakdown, we're going to watch a video, right? So
yeah, we're going to watch this video, but if you want to learn about physics, I'm not the guy. To tell you that right now.
All right, so
that was
video.
a pretty tough one to follow there, Ramon. I'm not sure I can do that, but what I can talk to you about is baseball. What we're going to see here in these videos is we're going to talk a little bit about exit velocity based on pitch location. There's been some ambiguity in the community, and I just want to clarify some things about how we're giving our feedback. And it's really important to understand that your exit velo is going to be different. Let's just say all things considered equal. If you have very good timing on a pitch on the inside part of the plate, you're going to have a higher exit velocity on the earlier side. On a pitch down the middle, you need to be pretty much straight, even with the plate, with your bat when it's crossing over the plate. And as the pitch is away, you want to be a little bit later. And what I mean by that, and what we're going to demonstrate here, is you got to get the barrel of the bat out in front when you're hitting. Okay, so on a fastball end, you got to get it out in front. That's going to generate the most leverage that you can possibly get when you're swinging the bat. And so that's why you get more exit velocity on the pull side.
Right.
But
So we're talking about just early timing on inside pitches.
Yeah, so obviously, if you're perfect on an inside pitch, your barrel of your bat's going to be out in front, okay? If you're perfect on a pitch away, the barrel of your bat is going to be pointing to the first base dugout if you're a right-handed hitter, to the third base dugout if you're a left-handed hitter, kind of. It's just going to be slanted back. So there's three different kind of layers to where you're hitting.
Right.
So essentially, go ahead and play the tape. What you're going to see here is Tatis hitting a couple balls. So on this one here, you can see that we're going to show you how he got the barrel out in front. His exit velocity on a pitch down the middle is going to be a lot higher than it is on the other side.
So it's 109.
He gets 109.
We're going to take a look at the exact same pitch location, but move the timing, right, Gil? So what are we looking at?
Yeah, so basically what we're looking at is a pitch right down the middle, and we're showing the early side for the 109, and then this is going to be on the late side of good that shows, I think, 104 or something like that. So you're just going to show that they're both good, right? You're going to have good, but you're going to have a little bit less exit velocity going the other way on a pitch down the middle.
So, Gil, we're looking at this swing graph. Can you explain what we're looking at?
Yeah, and we touched on this stuff, but I just want to do a close-up view of this so you just get a better idea. And what I just showed you in that last video was pitches down the middle. Here's a pitch on the inner part of the plate. And what we're doing with this graph, we're showing you where your bat needs to be in order to get a pitch that's on the inner part of the plate. You can see the angle of the bat. You can see that the bat head is out in front. And then on the right side, you can see the away pitch and your bat angle is back. And you can see that both of these hits were outside of good. So one was probably early and the other one is late, but it's just a good representation of showing you the bat angle when you want to pull the ball, when you want to hit the ball the other way. Again, when the pitch is away, you're going to gain more exit velocity being on the later side of perfect, and on a pitch's end, you're going to gain more exit velocity on a pitch on timing that's a little bit early or right on perfect, on the early side of perfect.
Yeah, really pay attention to how the green area is shifted. Look at the inside swing. There's so much more green area above the plate because that's an inside pitch.
Yeah.
Being just early on the inside pitch, it's not a bad thing, so you have more leeway there. When we're looking at the pitch away, you can see that green is further pulled back. Remember, swing analysis is two things. That swing info, that's one-to-one with the swing that you just did, and it's very important. So don't just look at the contact. You want to look at that swing info, and I'm glad we took the time to break this down, Gil.
Yeah, sure. And I want to show you one more video, so let's get that up there. So before we play this video, I just want to explain it real quick. You're going to see 4 different hits by Machado here. And what we're going to demonstrate is how important it is to stay behind an outside pitch. All the things I've already talked to you guys about and how I explained real life hitting and how it It works almost parallel to our game and how you want to hit. We want to stay behind the outside pitch. And so I'm going to show you what happens if you do that. And I'm also going to show you what happens if you kind of roll over. So go ahead and play the video. So the first pitch here is going to be a foul ball. He's just laid on it. But what you're going to see here is an exit velocity of, let's see, it's coming up here. 98. Okay, so 98, and he's just laid on a pitch on the outer half of the plate, right on the black. On this example here, you can see that I pulled it very early, so you're going to see a huge discrepancy in those miles per hour in the exit velocity, 69. And that's because he's rolling over on an outside pitch. He's got to stay behind the ball. In this example, I rolled over again, hit a ground ball to the shortstop. You're going to see a little increase in the exit velocity because I'm moving more to the right side. Stayed behind it just a little more. There you go, 89. Okay, and on this one, you can see I did it perfectly, and I'm going to generate the most exit velocity on that pitch type. Okay, based on where my PCI centered up on that ball, I hit a nice line drive into the gap. And I think I got 100 and something on this one. I can't remember exactly what it was, but you can see what I'm talking about. And if you go back to thinking about those graphs, you can see that the bat angle being back and waiting on the pitch is going to show you how you're going to be able to expose outside pitches and just crush them if you sit back and wait instead of trying to get out in front of them. So just early on an outside pitch is not a good thing. Just early on a pitch down the middle in, that's a good thing. You're going to generate a lot of exit velocity on that, just short of perfect. Okay, but as soon as you start getting past that center cut middle and start moving away, the earlier you are, the worse you're going to be. You want to be perfect to a little bit late. So just late's going to be just fine.
Just like it is in real life. And like Kyle mentioned, remember your batter's swing tendencies and hit types, they matter here. If he's an extreme pull hitter and you're pulling pitches on the inside, it's going to influence a little bit. So just always remember that. Remember, the swing analysis is 2 boxes. That swing info that's showing your timing is super, super important. And thank you, Gil, for explaining that in very great detail.
Got it.
Another thing to remember is baseball is weird. Round bat, round ball. Sometimes weird things happen. You know, our game, just like real life, it's the law of averages. On average, are we getting and seeing the expected result for bat-on-ball contact when we have everything factored in way more often than not? As long as that answer continues to be yes, we're on the right path. When that answer is no, we're always looking to make changes and fixes. So just remember that. You will still see some anomalies, but the vast majority of your swings, are your perfects going to be fair? Yes, we know they're fair because we have the data we just showed you. But yes, there's that less than 1% time where one might go foul. So just remember that. Let's keep it moving. All right, let's talk about pitching. We're going to start with par. Par was introduced last year in the MLB The Show 21. For our new fans, it's the perfect accuracy region. We wanted to give users an ability to be able to pitch really perfect. Kyle, so what's changed for par in MLB The Show 22? And most of this was based off of user feedback, right?
Right. So we've listened to you all out in our community, and one of the things we noticed was par is not dynamic. So you weren't noticing the change from moving a changeup up in the zone, down in the zone, in, out, etc. And one way to set our expectations to you all is to make that dynamic. So understanding real life pitch expectations and whatnot. So for example, a changeup is most effective when you're throwing that pitch down in the zone, trying to get a hitter to chase. It's not so effective when you're throwing that changeup up in the zone. And so one of the things that we did, and you can see highlighted in the video being shown, is that as that pitch moves up in the zone, you're going to notice an increase in the perfect region, effectively showing that on a perfect pitch with an off speed, for example, a changeup, that size is going to be drastically increased. And so proper pitching technique would, kind of infer that you want to keep that pitch down in the zone. So if you knew nothing about what a slider does, what a knuckle curve does, what a changeup does, you'll have that expectations as a new player to our game or a returning player to the game. You'll know exactly what to expect on that slider up in the zone, on that slider down in the zone. So one of the things highlighted by this dynamic par is an decrease in accuracy. So grows significantly as you move up. Second, as you move that slider or that pitch that's going to move horizontally in the zone, you're going to notice less movement and less break. So that pitch is not going to be as effective. So those sinkers up and in to a right-handed hitter, not quite as effective. That sinker perfect region is pretty dramatically increased in size when throwing down in the zone. So we're trying to, one, convey expectations for pitches, and two, reinforce proper pitching techniques, essentially.
Proper pitching etiquette.
Proper pitching etiquette.
Proper pitching etiquette.
That's cool. I like what Kyle said about that too. But one thing I'd like to add to it really is, like he mentioned, it's really a good tool to learn how to pitch. So if you're moving that around, you're selecting a changeup, like you said, or a curveball, any off-speed pitch, and you notice how you go higher in the zone, it gets bigger, and then it gets smaller. If you're learning how to pitch baseball, we're actually teaching that in the game. But the other thing, too, that I wanted to mention is that par region, that is showing you exactly where your pitch can go if you do a perfect mechanic, regardless of the pitching mechanic that you're using. So if you use any of our pitching mechanics and you do it perfectly, that is showing you the range of where that ball can go. Now, if you set that ball outside the strike zone and you see any part of that inside the strike zone and you want to miss even further away, I would recommend that you put it further away, because essentially you're seeing, if you're that good with the, like Kyle's really good. Like some of these guys that I play with are really good with pinpoint pitching, and they can kind of dot it and put it wherever they want. So if you want to, like, if say you're 0-2 and you don't want any of that ball to get inside the strike zone, you're going to want to move that whole area outside the strike zone so that he's chasing and you're not giving him anything to hit in case it does miss on the bad side of it, if that makes sense.
Right, because we're trying to kill two birds with one stone here. First, we're trying to teach you proper pitching technique. Pitchers don't really throw a lot of change-ups in the zone. Two, we're combating some exploits where people were spamming sinkers in the zone. So one, sinkers aren't going to be as effective when you're throwing them high in the zone. Two, it's going to be much harder to more consistently be able to execute a perfectly placed pitch in a spot where it's normally not thrown a lot, like high sinkers, high curve balls, right?
Absolutely. And I think you touched on something there with that sinker. One thing to note, I think you all be very happy about that, is we've taken a look at our outlier perk and made a few adjustments there. You're going to notice a higher accuracy penalty on that outlier, as well as a small decrease in miles per hour. And that's just based on all of the feedback that we're getting from all of you out there. And keep it up. We love it. We love to see it. And we think that those adjustments to the outlier perk will just make for a little bit better cat and mouse dynamic at the plate between pitcher batter.
Kyle and Gil, thank you for that par explanation. Remember, perfect accuracy region, it was introduced into the game last year. It's been out for a year. We heard your feedback. We made some pretty substantial changes to it for MLB The Show 22. We also made some changes to our different gameplay styles and some of the pitching methods. Kyle, you want to elaborate?
Yeah, Ramon. So going forward in 22, casual gameplay style is easier, competitive is a little bit harder, and specifically when you're using pinpoint on that competitive, we made that I would say it's a lot harder.
Oh, a lot harder. I like that.
You all got really good at that really fast, and so we needed to make some adjustments this year to make the direction particularly a little bit more difficult for you all. Off-speed gesture accuracy is easier to get good, and fastballs a little bit harder. And like always, we always reevaluate our different pitch types like sinker, circle changes to make sure that they are effective and there's no meta going on in our community.
Right, and for our new users, when we're talking about gameplay styles, it is independent of gameplay difficulty. So gameplay styles, we have 3 of them: casual, simulation, and competitive. If you're playing online, it's defaulted to competitive, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So with competitive, we weigh user skill a little bit more than player ratings, right?
I would say a lot more.
A lot
more.
Casual, what's the difference with casual?
Casual is if you've never played the game before, or you love hitting tanks all the time, and that for those that don't know, tanks are home runs, you're going to want to hop on that casual. What we do is we help onboard new players to the game. Those timing windows are a little bit bigger. We tend to onboard you with fastballs down the middle, and then as you gain skill, mix in a few off speeds here and there. But really, it's about learning baseball, learning our interfaces, and having a good time while playing MLB The Show.
Perfect. And rounding out that list for gameplay styles is simulation, which is split down the middles, 50-50, your user skill and the player ratings. Now, that is different from difficulty level. Difficulty level is how hard is it to hit hit, and field, correct?
Correct.
All right. Anything else when it comes to pitching changes?
Just once again, just generally competitive tuning. It's all based on feedback and data that we get from games that are played in the community from the start of launch up until now. And so, like I said, we've adjusted specific pitch types to be less or more effective. Sinker specifically up in the zone, off speeds generally up in the zone, and yeah.
Yeah, and the closeout, since we're about to stop talking about pitching and hitting, go on to fielding, there are so many more under the hood changes that Brian Ma, our senior programmer, who basically lives this stuff, that he's done, and it's all based off of feedback and data. So many changes go on, not just in patches, but throughout the years. So you're going to notice a much, much better game in MLB The Show 22 when it comes to pitching and hitting due to the things that we've talked about and some other stuff that we haven't even talked about.
100% right, Ramon.
All right. Let's talk about fielding. All right, we've talked about pitching and fielding. Now let's bring it on home with fielding. If you played in the tech test, you probably noticed, but we've added perfect throws to every base. Right, Kyle?
You got it, Ramon. One of the things that we love to do, we put it in for home. We like to expand on features that we put in the game. And so the new addition for 22 is perfect throws to second, third, and home as well.
Last year, we introduced perfect throws to home. Now we have perfect throws to any base. So, Gil, the big question everybody's going to have is, what is the difference between a perfect throw in MLB The Show 22 as opposed to a good throw in MLB The Show 22? You got something to show us?
Yeah, we're going to show this video, but before we roll it, I just want to say that myself and the other guys around the building, the guys who have been playing this is a game changer. The same way I described the plays at the plate, when we incorporated the perfect throws at the plate, it changed the way the games were played. Because before that happened, guys were sending their runners home knowing, based on the animations that we had in the game, that they would make it in safely. As soon as we incorporated that perfect throw to home, they stopped sending those guys on those close plays because you had to learn it, and they learned it the hard way because they were getting thrown out. So when you can throw the ball on a dime and hit and nail the guy at the plate, it makes a big difference on what you do offensively and then also what you're doing on defense. So now that we've incorporated this into both second base and third base, basically on non-forced plays, go ahead and roll the tape. What you'll see here is two different plays. We're going to start with the Hall of Famer Schmidt at third, receiving some throws from center fielder. And on both of these plays, the first one you're going to see a good throw. So I didn't get perfect on this throw. And you can see the throws just like last year, off to the left. It was still a good throw, but it's not perfect. On this exact same hit, exact same everything, here's the difference. You're going to see the animations at third base are completely different. The way he sets up, how he gets behind the base and catches the ball right on a dime, tag, you're out. So that's how it's going to change this game, and people are going to start seeing it after they invest some time playing it over and over again. They're going to start noticing that,
Game changer.
You're right. It is a game changer, and I'll keep saying that because I love this. And in this example, we're going to show, I think, a hit down the line, and we got our legend at second base, Chase Utley, who will be receiving this throw. Again, here's a good throw. The runner's safe. You're going to see the exact same hit.
And that's a good throw and tag, too.
It's a good throw. I mean, it's just not perfect, right? So that's what I'm showing you, the difference of why this is a game changer. This is the exact same everything. Same route to the ball, same animation, perfect throw, right on a dime. Utley gets the tag and he's out. Okay, so what you can see there is exactly what we incorporated at home plate. We've now incorporated it at second and third. And the really cool thing about this as well is it's not just limited from outfield throws to the bases. You can do this with your infield and throw into home plate now. Last year you couldn't do that. It was only from outfield to infield. Now, if let's say the game-winning runs at third, and I got an all-star shortstop, and he's got a huge accuracy range because he's got a high rating, then it's going to be easier for me to throw perfect to home plate and get a 99 runner that might be trying to score on a ball that's hit hard in a game-winning situation, throw him out.
Right, and let's not skip over that. The arm accuracy rating for your players in the outfield now matters so much more because having that guy out there with that 90 arm accuracy as opposed to somebody with a 60, your perfect throw region is a little bit bigger, and
Yeah.
that's going to come in handy on these plays, right, Gil?
Yeah, it is, and I think it's important to note too that we are every single year we are looking at ways to put the game in the user's hands without getting carried away, if that makes sense. And there's only so many fielding animations that you only field the ball a certain amount of ways, right, in baseball, and you only throw the ball a certain amount of ways, right? But giving the user the ability to do some things to change the game and putting it into their hands without stopping the game and having some weird mechanic in the middle of a head-to-head game online. Aside from doing that, we're constantly thinking of ways to put the game in the user's hands, and this is just another way of doing that. So it's super fun. The better players are going to do better. This is a very, very cool competitive enhancement to the game, and so we're excited for it.
And that's not all.
And
That's
these guys
not
like
all.
it too, see?
So since we're talking about fielding, what happens every year is you grab some actual baseball players and y'all go across the street and you're in the motion capture facility for a few weeks. What animations were you specifically focused on capturing, and what type of holes were you trying to fill for this year's game?
So we're always working on fielding efficiency. I think it's really important, especially for our top fielders in the game. I think this is another really good opportunity to talk a little bit about how the fielding system works. So not only do we go in and get more fielding animations, we get a lot of throwing animations, and we get a lot of variety. And basically we look at every year's game and we try to figure out, okay, where are they not being efficient? One thing I want to drive home to all the people that play our game is that it's extremely important to branch your throws. You're going to get the most efficient throws in our game if you can preload your throw. And what that means, for those of you that don't know, it means that you have an opportunity all the way up to the catch attach. So when they catch the ball, all the way up to that point of throwing the ball before they get it. If you do that, you're going to get a nice flowing animation that's appropriate for that situation. So for example, if there's a ball hit in the hole between third and short, and your shortstop goes and gets the ball and he's got to set up to throw to first base. If you got a runner that's like below average runner, he has time to set up and make a throw. If he's a speedy guy, he's got to get rid of the ball. But what's important to also know is that fielding ratings matter. So if I got a guy that's a top tier player, if he's a 99 diamond, he's going to get rid of that ball much faster than a guy that's, say, an average fielder at 62. And then even if you got a guy out of position, that's maybe a 40.
And that's really important. We don't want to skip over that because we see it a lot when we watch streams and stuff. Sometimes you're screaming, why won't he get rid of the ball? It's because, well, you have a guy out there who's not really known for his fielding prowess. So he's only going to have access to certain animations. Mm-hmm. But your gold glovers, the guys who are known for their glove, they have access to more efficient and faster animations, right?
They do, and I really want to drive that home, and I want you guys to play this back and play it. And when I hear that some guys aren't being efficient in the field, it's hard for me to hear because I know how many animations we have in this game, and I know how they're being used. So it's really important that you understand, and I'll give you another example. Let's say with a shortstop that's making a running backhand catch. If you got a 99 guy, he's going to stop on a dime and throw that ball to first base across the diamond. And if he's got a good arm, then he's going to throw it even harder. If he's going to do a running throw, he's going to catch it and jump and throw, or he's going to release it in one step. If you got a guy that's one tier below that, say the guy's like an average 62 guy or 68 guy, he, not every single time, but consistently will take one extra step before he can release that ball. So the only way that we're able to differentiate our players in the game is by having this tiered system. So we have multiple branch points from where they catch these balls. The best guys are going to throw it right away. The guys that aren't as good are going to take one extra step. And even worse than that, are going to take two extra steps on, say, a running throw. And if you pay attention, you will notice that while playing this game over and over and over again.
Like Gil mentioned, you want to preload your throws. That means as soon as the ball is hit and you know where you want to go with the ball, press the button, get your input in. This is going to give you the best animations for the player fielding the ball, which Gil just mentioned. That's going to change based off of if they're a diamond fielder, common, middle of the road. This is all very dynamic, and you're seeing it play out on the field here. But we want to get more specific with fielding ratings. With fielding animations. What else did you try to capture in the motion capture facility this year, Gil?
Yeah, well, just like always, we got hundreds of animations. We're in there. We got ex-big league players that are in the studio with us, and we wear them out for a few days and get quite a few fielding animations. This year we focused mainly on, like I said, throwing variety. We got a bunch of throws. We got some new catches. Did a lot of transitional work. The transitional work is just like things that make the game look better between moves, right? And so get the feet right, doing throws off the left foot, off the right foot. So we're always adding to those areas. We got all new first base catches with actual throws coming across the diamond, which we didn't have before. They were kind of like shadow catching, but this year we got actual throws that will go across the diamond. So all of our catches, the majority of them at first base are all new, and you'll see that difference. So a lot of you guys probably, I saw some comments of people playing the tech test that noticed those. They're super cool. We got more knockdown catches, so on hot shots, where guys are fielding hot shot balls. And here's something else I want to mention too, because I think it's really important. A lot of guys get really kind of frustrated when our, especially that corner infielders on hard hit balls will kind of olay at the ball. So we added logic this year, and this is really important to note, where they're going to use basically I call them knockdown catches, where they just try to get their body in front of the ball. So if they can range to the right or to the left on hard hit balls, they're going to try to knock those balls down instead of just laying them and letting them go into the outfield. Now the higher rated guys are going to have the opportunity to catch those balls more than the guys that are lower rated, but essentially there'll be deflections and they'll have to go pick them up and try to throw them out. But that's at least giving them a fighting chance to throw guys out at the base on those plays. And a lot less of those kind of olay catches that they've seen. And plus the ball has to be hit really hard to get one of those olays. We've increased the exit velocity for those to play. We got a bunch of new stances. We got a bunch of new pitching deliveries. Got a new swing in the game. A lot of new celebrations that I'm sure will be shown in our presentation videos. Some new setups at the wall, some new dives we've done. And yeah, just tons of new animations, and so that's just kind of just like a quick list and shout out and the things that we've done, but we're always expanding.
You probably saw it, the Euro Step by Jazz. It's also in the game. We're always trying to improve on our player likeness, and that's just one of the many animations that we put into the game, and not all are just for show and flash. Most of them, the vast majority of them, are for gameplay purposes, like Gil mentioned. So we've talked about a lot today: pitching, hitting, fielding, new custom practice. Did we miss anything, guys?
I don't think so, Ramon. I think we got it all.
Gil?
Well, we left some surprises for you guys for the game. We can't tell you everything, but
all right, we can't tell you everything.
I take it back. We left some stuff out.
Oh, we left some stuff out. We left some stuff out on purpose. Apparently, Gil left some stuff out on purpose.
I can't talk anymore, man. My voice is done. I'm shot.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for us. You know, like we just said, we talked about hitting changes, pitching changes, fielding changes, all new animations. We gave you a lowdown on some of the new difficulty levels. Custom practice now has custom fielding, so you can field your double plays. We listened to your feedback, gave you PCI anchor. We have dynamic PCI range. We even made changes to par, and when the game ships, we'll also continue listening to your feedback. All right, that was a long conversation. We really hoped everybody out there watching enjoyed it. Chris, we want to thank you for joining us. Kyle, we want to thank you for joining us. Anything before we go?
No, just can't wait till you all get your hands on the game.
Yeah, and just like every year I say, I really appreciate all you guys that pick up our game and play it. We really look forward to your feedback. The constructive criticism is always welcome here. We are looking at everything, so please, if you guys have feedback for us, give it to us.
And remember, you can reach us on theshow.com or go to Discord. Well, I think we covered everything, guys. We hope you all enjoyed the gameplay feature premiere for MLB The Show 22. Tune in next week. It's all commentary and presentation. We move things around just a little, and I'll be joined by Kirby and Drew. So be ready next Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific on YouTube and Twitch. Miss an episode, make sure to head over to San Diego Studio YouTube page to get caught up on all feature premieres. Thanks to Chris and Kyle one more time for joining us today. Thanks to Justin and Connor for helping us out. And a big thank you to Carson and Colin behind the scenes. See you all next week.